Good morning and welcome to Morning Walk. I'm Don, and this is where we discuss our walk of faith as Christians. Many are striving to live the perfect life and be a perfect Christian, a perfect man or a woman. The reality is that Jesus lived his life as the perfect man. And yet it might be asked, what constitutes a perfect man? What does that look like? Well, the answer is that it would be living as a God intended man to live. A man as God intended. That would be a perfect man because that would be according to God's design. And though Jesus was both divine and human, he lived his life as a human being. So you may ask, well, what's the difference? He was divine and human. Of course, we know that. Well, the difference is that God's function is independent, that he functions autonomous and he self-generates all that he does. All of his activity of grace comes out of himself. Whereas man's functional ability is very different. God created humans to function dependent and to derive all that we do by faith, the receptivity of faith activity. And so you could see that clearly, although Jesus could be God and could be man simultaneously, he, on the other hand, could not function as God and function as man at the same time because there would be a functional problem there, wouldn't there? You see, these functional categories of deity and humanity are basically incompatible or opposite. In other words, it would be impossible for Jesus to behave as God and behave as man at the same time. And that's why the Apostle Paul explains that the Son of God emptied himself. He emptied himself. So the question then is asked, well, what did he empty himself of? Well, he certainly didn't empty himself of being God. He didn't empty himself of the attributes of God. And he didn't empty himself of the divine glory of God. But he did empty himself of the prerogative of independence. Again, that divine function. God functions independently. He's not dependent on anything or anyone. But Jesus emptied himself of his divine prerogative to function so that he could function as a derivative human being, so that he'd be willing to be receptive to whatever God was doing, faithfully receptive to the work of God the Father at every moment in the 33 years that he lived here on the face of the earth. And ladies and gentlemen, that is life as God intended. That is the perfect man. And so the logical question must then be asked, well, if Jesus was fully human, how did he avoid the consequences of the fall because of Adam's disobedience? He was human. Well, Paul tells us in Romans chapter 5 and verse 19, it says that through the one man's disobedience, Adam, the many, that is all the human race, were made sinners, having Satan's character of sin within their spirit. So again, how then did Jesus avoid receiving the human spiritual condition of sinfulness and death? That's an important question and a more important answer to the question. Well, the answer is by the supernatural virgin conception of Jesus, the virgin birth, whereby Jesus' father, or the fatherhood of Jesus, would be the Spirit of God. And his human motherhood, of course, would be through the Virgin Mary. And this allowed Jesus to be fully human and yet remained fully divine. He didn't cease to be divine when he became human. And he therefore enjoyed perfect human spiritual condition. Why? Because he was joined to his Father spiritually. So how does this truth of the perfect man, Jesus Christ, impact our lives? In other words, oftentimes people ask, well, what difference does that make, Don? Well, it makes a huge difference. Because of his perfect life without sin, he could serve as the perfect, sinless sacrifice for the entire human race, taking the death consequences of the devil upon himself through totally undeserving of death. He didn't deserve to die because he didn't sin. He was obedient, Paul says, unto the point of death, even death on a cross, Philippians 2:8. Thereby, Jesus was able to offer us the freedom or the free gift of eternal life, his resurrection life. We were able to receive his life, and once having received it, we could then enjoy and experience the outlived life of Jesus by faith, day by day, in our lives, life as God intended. So today you can enjoy being a perfect man or a perfect woman by allowing the perfect man, Jesus Christ, to live his life through you.